In Laravel 11, we will see digging deeper concepts. This means exploring advanced features and understanding the framework's inner workings. We will see these features individually. Now we are starting with the Artisan Console. The Artisan Console is a powerful tool used to create custom artisan commands. Here are some practical examples. 1. Automate data import-export. You can automate data import from files, example CSV, XML, JSON, into the database or export data to these formats. This simplifies data handling processes, making it easy to import large datasets or create backups without a user interface. To implement it practically, open the command line prompt. Go to the project root directory, and in the address bar, remove the path and type cmd, then press enter. Ensure that both the XAMPP Apache and MySQL servers are running. Next, go to the command line prompt and run the command php artisan serve to start local development and verify that your existing Laravel project is running correctly. You see the product list, which you can import-export using a custom artisan command. First, you'll need to generate the custom artisan command for importing and exporting product data. In the command line prompt, press Ctrl+C to exit the serve command, and then run the command php artisan make command product data import export. Here, product data import export is the name of the command. You can choose any name you prefer. After executing this command, a file named productdataimportexport.php will be created in the project root directory, specifically in the app console commands directory. Open the productdataimportexport.php file. In this file, you will find the variable protected $signature, which contains the name of the command used to import or export product data. The first parameter in this variable is the command name, products, and the second parameter is arguments, which specifies the action as either import or export. Next, you can locate the variable protected $description, which contains a description of the command, automates import-export of products. After that, you will see the handle method, which is automatically called when the command is executed. This is where you will write the logic to process the input arguments and options and perform the desired tasks. First, define the variable $action, which will be obtained from the command to indicate whether it is an import or export action. Then, check the value of $action to see if it is import or export. If $action is import, call the method importProducts to handle the logic for importing product data into the database. Conversely, if $action is export, call the method exportProducts to handle the export of product data from the product database table. If $action is neither of these two options, display an error message. After implementing this logic, go to the project root directory, then create a new directory named products within the storage app directory. In this new directory, create a CSV file named import.csv that contains the following column headings from the product database table: name, description, price, stock_quantity, product_image, created_at, and updated_at. Next, input the following test data into the CSV file. For the name, enter test product. For the description, enter test product description. For the price, enter 300. For stock_quantity, enter 60. And for both created_at and updated_at, enter 15th November 2022. Finally, save the import.csv file. Back to the productdataimportexport.php file and define the importProducts method. In this method, declare the $filePath variable, which will store the path to the import.csv file using the storage_path method. Next, check if the import.csv file exists. If not, display an error message. Then, define the $data variable, which will store the CSV file product data as an array using the str_getCSV function. This function converts comma-separated data from the CSV into an array. Then, create the $header variable to store only the header columns: name, description, price, stock_quantity, product underscore image, created underscore at, and updated underscore at. You can extract these headers using the array underscore shift function. Afterward, create a for each loop to iterate over the $data and retrieve each individual row of data. Define the $product data variable, which will combine the $header and $row into an associative array where the $header serves as keys and the $row as values. Next, write an insert query to insert the product name, product description, product price, product stock quantity, created underscore at, and updated underscore at into the database. After executing this insert query, you will display a success message. To do this, make sure to include the database facade at the top of the code with use illuminate /support /facades /db. Now, we implement this code using the artisan command before going to the handle function and comment on the export products function to avoid an undefined method error message. Save the product data import export.php file and open the command line prompt to run the command php artisan products process import. This command is generated from the protected $signature variable, passing the argument action as import. After executing this command, go to phpMyAdmin, refresh the product table, and you will see the new product data imported from the import.csv file. You can add additional product records to the import.csv file and import them using the same command. After implementing the import functionality, we now need to define the export products method for the export functionality. First, we will fetch all product data using a database query and store it in the $products variable. Next, to store the export data in a CSV file, we need to create a new empty CSV file named export.csv in the directory storage app products. After that, go back to the product data import export.php file and define the $file path variable, which will contain the path to export.csv. We will then open this file for modification and store the file handle in the $file variable. Next, we will add the header row to the CSV file, which includes the fields ID, name, description, price, stock underscore quantity, product underscore image, created underscore at, and updated underscore at using the fputcsv function. Following this, we will define a for each loop to extract each record from the $products variable and write each product's details into the export.csv file under the respective headers. After writing the data, we will close the file and display a success message. Now, let's save the product data import export.php file by removing the comment from the export products method in the handle method and then save the file. Next, go to the command line prompt and run the command php artisan products process export. Here, we pass the $action argument as export. After executing this command, a success message will be displayed. Then, go to the Storage App Products directory and open the export.csv file to see all the product records exported from the product database table. This concludes the import and export functionality using a custom artisan command. 2 database maintenance commands. Set up commands for tasks such as removing inactive users, deleting outdated records, or clearing logs. This helps manage database size, improves performance, and automates routine maintenance tasks. Now we will implement database maintenance commands practically. We will create a custom command to remove inactive users. To do this, open the command line prompt and run the command php artisan make command remove inactive users. Here, remove inactive users is the name of the file where we will implement the execution logic. After running this command, a file named removeinactiveusers.php will be created in the app console commands directory. Next, open phpMyAdmin and go to the users table. You will notice that there is no column to track the user's last activity. To add a new column named last_active_at, we will use a migration. Go to the command line prompt and run the command PHP artisan make migration add underscore last underscore active underscore at underscore to underscore users underscore table table is equal to users. After running this command, a migration file will be created in the project root directory under the database migrations direct. Open the migration file and add a new column named last underscore active underscore at to the up function. This column should have a data type of timestamp and be nullable. To reverse this migration, you must add code to drop the last underscore active underscore at column. After making these changes, save the migration file and open your command line prompt. Run the command php artisan migrate. Once the migration is successful, go to phpMyAdmin and you should see the new column last underscore active underscore at added to the users table. Next, to track user activity across all requests, we need to create middleware. Although we can update last underscore active underscore at during login requests, this approach is limited to tracking user activity. Therefore, we will create middleware for this purpose. To create the update last active middleware, go to the command line prompt and run the command php artisan make middleware update last active. After executing this command, the update last active middleware will be created in the app http middleware directory. Next, you need to register this middleware. Go to the project root directory, open the bootstrap directory, and find the app.php file. In this file, register the update last active middleware within the with middleware section, which applies it to the entire application. After registering, save the app.php file. Then, go to the project root directory and open the app http middleware folder to find the update last active middleware file. In this file, locate the handle function where we will define the logic for updating user activity. The first step is to check if the user is authenticated. If the user is authenticated, fetch their details and store them in the $user array. Next, update the last underscore active underscore at column with the current date and save the user's data to allow the request to proceed. After that, return to the project root directory and open the routes directory. Inside, find and open the web.php file. Here, add the update last active middleware for each request related to product actions such as listing products, adding products, storing products, editing products, updating products, and deleting products. This middleware will automatically update the last underscore active underscore at column for authenticated users whenever they make a request. Once you've made these changes, save the web.php route file. Then to execute this, go to the command line prompt and run the command php artisan serve to start local development. To verify that the last underscore active underscore at column value is being updated, open your Chrome browser and log in using the username test@gmail.com and the password 12345678. After logging in, click on the product list. When you click on the product list, the update last active middleware will be triggered. Next, go to phpMyAdmin and refresh the users table. You see that the last underscore active underscore at column value has been updated in response to the request, allowing us to check if the user is active. Next, return to the project root directory and open the app console commands directory. Find the file named removeinactiveusers.php. Inside, you see the variable protected $signature, which contains the command name used to remove users inactive for 30 days. You can adjust this using the days option. The first part of this variable specifies the command name, users, and the second part outlines the arguments, indicating the number of days of inactivity. Also define protected $description as remove users who have been inactive for a specified number of days. After that, you notice the handle method, which is automatically called when the command is executed. This is where the logic processes the input arguments and options and performs the desired tasks. Then define the $days variable to store the argument representing the number of inactive days. And calculate the threshold date, which represents the past relative to the current time. use the carbon library and the subdays function to subtract the specified number of days from the current date. Include the carbon library with use carbon and the user model with use app/models/user at the top of your code. Next, write a query to retrieve all users who have been inactive since the specified threshold date, storing the number of inactive users in the $count variable. After that, check if the $count is greater than 0. If it is, execute a query to delete accounts that have been inactive for the specified period and display a success message. If $count is not greater than 0, display the message no inactive users found. Finally, return 0 to indicate that the command completed without issues. In command line operations, returning 0 signifies success, whereas returning any other value indicates an error or failure. After completing all these, save the removeinactiveusers.php file. To implement this process, we need to consider users who have been inactive for 30 days. First, check the last_active_at column in the users table. Here a user's value is 16th November 2024, update it manually to 15th October 2024. Then, open the command line prompt and press Ctrl+C to exit the serve command. Then, run the custom artisan command to delete inactive users with the following command: php artisan users, remove inactive days is equal to 30. After executing this command, you see a success message. Now, go to phpMyAdmin and refresh the users table. You observe that the inactive user has been successfully deleted from the user table using the custom artisan command. Similarly, you can delete outdated records using a custom artisan command. Next, we will implement a process for clearing logs using an artisan command. Now, let's discuss how to clear logs using a custom artisan command. First, we need to check where the log files are stored in the Laravel project. You can find them in the project root directory in the storage logs directory. The primary log file used by Laravel is laravel.log, which stores application logs and is used for debugging and identifying issues in your application. Next, we will create a custom artisan command to clear these logs. To do this, open your command line prompt and run the command php artisan make command clear logs. After executing this command, a new file named clearlogs.php will be created in the app console commands directory of your project. First, close the laravel.log file and go to the project root directory. Then, go to the app console commands directory and open the clearlogs.php file. In this file, change the value of the protected $signature variable to logs clear. This is the command name you'll use in the command line to clear the logs. Next, update the protected $description value to clear the contents of all application log files. You can also choose any name and description you prefer. In the handle function, implement the logic for the command. Start by fetching the path of the logs and storing it in the $logPath variable. Then, check if the logs directory exists. If it does not, display the message no logs directory found and return a success command using the command facade. Next, get all the log files in the directory using the file facade and store them in the $logfiles variable. Remember to include the file facade at the top of your code with the line use illuminate /support/facades/file. Afterward, write a for each loop to access each log file separately. In this case, we only want to clear the laravel.log file. So, add a condition to check if the current file is laravel.log. If it is, use the file_put_contents function to empty this file. Then, display a success message, return the command success, and save all your changes. To execute this functionality, open the command line prompt and run the command php artisan logs clear. After executing this command, go to the project root directory. Go to the storage logs directory and open the laravel.log file. You will see that the log file has been cleared using the custom artisan command. If you want to automate the process of clearing logs every minute, hourly, daily, weekly, or monthly, go to the project root directory, then go to the Bootstrap directory and open the app.php file. Then, add a new method called withSchedule to schedule the task. In this method, schedule command to clear logs for every minute, and at the top of the code, include the schedule library by adding use illuminate \console \scheduling \schedule and save the app.php file. By following these steps, you can set up automatic log clearing based on your preferred schedule. You can see a list of additional schedule constraints such as limit the task to weekdays, limit the task to weekends, limit the task to Sundays, and so on. If you want to view an overview of your scheduled tasks, go to the command line prompt and run the command php artisan schedule list. Here show a list of scheduled tasks. Now to run the scheduler, add cron jobs, but in the local development machine, you would not add a scheduler cron entry. Instead, you may use the php artisan schedule work artisan command. 3. Automated notifications. Automate the sending of daily, weekly, or monthly reports, reminders, or promotional emails. This feature allows for scheduled notifications or reports to be sent without manual intervention. Now, to automate the sending of daily, weekly, or monthly reports, first, create a command file. Open the command line prompt and run the command php artisan make command send reports. In this command, send reports is the name of the command file, but you can choose any name you prefer. After executing this command, a file named sendreports.php will be created in the project root directory under the app console commands directory. Next, we need an email template that contains the email content. To create this template, run the following command in the command line prompt php artisan make mail report mail. Here, report mail is the name of the class, and you can use any name you like. After executing this command, you will find the reportmail.php file in the project root directory under the app/mail directory. Now, to write the email content, we need a blade view template. Run the following command php artisan make view report. In this command, report is the name of the blade template, but you can choose any name you wish. After executing this command, a file named report.blade.php will be created in the project root directory under the resources views directory. To write the logic for sending emails, first, go to the project root directory. Then, go to the app console commands directory, open the sendreports.php file, and change the value of protected $signature to emails, send reports, frequency. This name will be used to run the command in the command line prompt to send reports to users' emails. Next, update the value of protected $description to send daily, weekly, or monthly reports to users. In that handle function, begin by fetching the argument from the command as $frequency. Then, check if the frequency is daily, weekly, or monthly. If it is none of these, display an error message stating invalid frequency. Now, to send emails to each user, first fetch users using the user model and the wall function, storing the result in the $users variable. After that, create a for each loop to send emails to each user individually. To generate the email content dynamically based on the frequency, call the generateReportContent function, passing in the frequency and user details as parameters, and define the generateReportContent function with parameters string $frequency and $user, and return the content that includes the user's name and email frequency. Now, to send the email to each user, use the mail library. Send the email to the user's email address along with the generated content. For generating the email template, use the reportMail class and make sure to include the reportMail class, the user model, and the mail library at the top of the code. After that, return to the handle function, display a success message, and save the sendreports.php file. To generate email content using the reportMail class, Start by opening the reportmail.php file located in the app/mail directory at the root of your project. First, add a public variable called $content to store the email content. In the constructor function, pass the $content variable, which is obtained from the sendReportsHandle function, and assign this value to the public $content variable. Next, within the envelope function, specify your desired email subject. In the content function, refer to the Blade View file named report, which you created for writing the email template code. Since we will not be adding any attachments to the email, you can now save the reportmail.php file. After that, go to the Resources Views directory in your project root and open the report.blade.php file. Here, add the HTML code for your email template and then save the file. To implement this functionality, open a command line prompt and run the command php artisan emails send reports daily. After executing this command, the email will be successfully sent to all users. You can also apply the same method to automate sending reminders or promotional emails. To automate this process, schedule the command as explained previously. With this, you have successfully implemented the custom artisan command concepts. I hope you found this information helpful. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe.